Hello, you're welcome to another Figma tutorial. So in today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to create this amazing modern social media chat app UI in Figma. So what we are going to be designing is what you're seeing on the screen, the home screen, the chat list, and the chatting screen. So we are going to be using components, auto layout, and some pro level techniques to build everything clean and scalable. And let me not even forget, we are also going to be using the latest Figma glass effect. So don't go anywhere because right after the design, we are going to be doing the prototype. So I'm going to show you how to prototype the entire flow and make it fully interactive inside of Figma. So let's dive right in. Hi, so you're welcome back. So the first thing we are going to do is to rename our design file. So I'm just going to change this to social media app UI. So the next thing we are going to do is to set up our color styles. So I just want to show you something. Each time you're working, you see this particular panel, design panel that we are seeing. It's going to be different when you select an object. So let's say we have like a rectangle now. If this rectangle is selected, you can see the blue highlight around the rectangle. You can see that this is showing an entirely different design panel. So make sure you are clicking outside. You click outside to be able to access this panel, just in case you already have something selected in your work environment. So that's why I pointed that out. So to add our first color style, I'm just going to go over here and select color. And then the first color is BG color. That's what we're going to bring in. And then I'm going to impute the hex code, which is 171815. So I'm going to hit enter to make sure that's what I imputed. So I'm going to create style. So if you look at this now, you can see two plus signs here now. So we are going to continue using these color styles because instead of following this long method to now select this, we can just select the plus here and it opens the color style input panel for us. So the next color is going to be our orange color. And the orange color is F99424. I'm going to hit enter to make sure that's what I imputed. And then I'm going to add another thing, which is another color, which is the red color. And the red color is going to be C41E4C. Hit enter to make sure that's what we imputed and we imputed it correctly. And another color is going to be the white color. Let's bring in a white color. So I'm going to hit F and create that too. And then we're going to bring in like a gray color to a gray fill. And our gray fill is going to be 2D, 2B, 2B. I'm going to hit enter and make sure that's so. Finally, we're going to add one gradient color. That gradient color is what we are going to be using for as our primary button, and we're going to use it on call to actions and our stories and all those things. So I'm just going to hit plus. So now to add the gradient color, let's just call this gradient. Oh, I think I have the cap plus on. So I'm going to call this gradient. And I'm going to select this. So instead of inputting the normal hex code now, we already have the colors that we want to use as gradients in our design file. So if you notice this, you see created in this file. But in case yours is showing on this page, if it's showing something like this on your own, just click on this drop down arrow here and you'll just see created on this file. So most of all the colors we've created on this file will be visible here. So now I'm going to select the first color. Or before that, let's quickly go to the gradients panel. So linear gradients. So I'm just going to select this and select the first color and then select this and select the second color. So don't think too much about the settings. This is basically what we came here to do. So I'm just going to close this. And now that we have this as this, I'm just going to create style. So now we have our gradient color. So probably if there's any other color that we might want to add in the future, we will always come back here and add it. So I'm just going to continue. So the next thing we are going to do is to bring in our frame. So for this, we're going to be using the iPhone 13 mini. And I'm just going to rename this to home because that's what we are going to be designing first. And I'm going to change the fill. So now instead of imputing the colors manually, we're just going to hit on this icon here to apply styles. So this will show us all the styles that we currently have on our design file. So we are definitely going to put the BG color because we want to add like a background color to this. So now I want to add like this kind of like gradient fill around our background. So to do that, I'm just going to select this and bring in the ellipse and draw the ellipse and go over here and add our red color. So now that we've added our red color, we want to have like this blurry kind of like feel around this. Make sure it has entered the frame, and then we'll just go over to effects. Oh, I think I clicked the wrong thing, not strokes, effects panel. So I'm just going to select this. I'm going to select the effect panel and check the drop down. So under the drop down, what I'm looking for is the layer blur. So I'm just going to select the layer blur and select this little icon here and then push this up here, and let's just hit this at 200 and see how this looks. Okay, this looks very perfect. I think this is what I want to use. So now that we've actually imputed this, I'm just going to push this to the top here, and we're going to also repeat the same pattern in several places in our design. So I'm just going to do this, and finally I'm going to do this as well. Oh, sorry, I think I duplicated that twice. So I'm just going to push this here as well, or let me push it down here. And I'm not actually thinking too much about it, so you don't have to think too much too. You can just do it in a straightforward way. Just do whatever thing, just be free with whatever settings you're doing here. So so the appearance, I'm going to reduce the appearance so much because it's kind of like too much. I'm going to reduce the appearance to, let's say we reduce it to like 60 and see how that looks. Not bad, it's there, but it's not too too harsh. So now that we have this with all the ellipse being selected, I'm just going to use the shortcut Control or Command G if you're using a Mac to add it into a group. So now that we've added it to a group, we're going to call it layer blur. So now that we've named it layer blur, we are going to lock it so that we can not touch it or adjust it at all. So now the next thing we are going to do is to quickly set up our layout grid. So I'm just going to select this and go over here, bring this to the top and select this drop down and select column grid. So the normal standard for mobile that is used by other designers worldwide is 4 counts. And now after, we're just going to leave this color here so we can be able to see the grids. And I'm going to leave it as stretch. And for this particular video, I know other videos will have been using a margin of like 20, but for this video, I'm going to be using a margin of 16 and a gutter of 12. So why I'm going to be using margin of 16 is because there's a way I want my content to look. So, but normally, if anytime you're choosing a margin, for mobile, I like using between 16 and 20. Some people use up to 24, but I think 24 is still like a safe space. But anything more than 24 or below 16, I don't advise that. I don't know about other designers, but I feel like for me, it just gives it enough breathing space in the margin. But aside from that, I think below 16 is too little and above 24 is too much. So the next thing we are going to do now is to quickly bring in the status bar and the home indicator. So to do that, I'm just going to go over to the assets panel and quickly search. Let's search status. So now we have like the status bar. I'm just going to drag this inside of this. So the first thing we are going to do is to select our home frame and check the width of this home frame. This is 375. So we're going to resize this to 375 so that it can actually fit into our frame. And now we don't need the fill anymore because we are going to be using it. We are going to be building a dark mode design. So we don't need anything very bright. So I'm just going to hit the minus to remove the fill. And then you will notice now that the signal and the time, the clock, all are in black. So we're just going to edit this and change it to our white color. So I'm just going to now drag this inside of this and center it properly and push to the top. So now that we have this, the next thing we're going to bring in is the home indicator. So this is the home indicator. I'm just going to drag this in. And just like we did, we're just going to reduce the width to 375. And then, or change the color rather to white. So I'm just going to bring this here and then push it inside of this. Make sure you see blue highlight to indicate that it has entered this particular frame. then you can center properly and push to the bottom. So now that we've set this up, then I'm going to go back to our design file so that we can see our layout panel and see how it looks. So this is currently what we have in our layout panel. So now let's go over to designing the main thing that we came here to design. So the first thing we are going to bring in is like a text. And the text is going to be like the greetings, which is like welcome back. And I'm going to add like an exclamation and I'm going to push this. So there's one thing I didn't mention. The fonts we are going to be using, the typography that we're going to be using is the SF Pro typography. That's what we are going to be using. So, and there's a quick setting you need to do. For this, I like anytime I'm working, well, it also depends though, but I normally like my line height to be on auto all the time. So now we're just going to change this to like 12. And I don't want this to be semi-bold. I want this to be regular. And then we didn't add like any gray color. Let's see if our gray color can actually, I don't want this to disappear completely. But if you notice now, this has disappeared completely. So we are going to detach this and select a gray color that is legible. I don't want it to be too white, but I want it to also be visible that something is there. All right, so I think I like this. So since I like this, I'm just going to add this and create the color style. So I'm just going to call this text, gray text. Oh, let me select that again. Gray text. So we're just going to create this. So we're going to use gray text. Let me see if that's added. Okay, we have this there. So now that we have this, I'm just going to push this here. And then I think let me leave this at kind of like medium. I would like it to be on medium. So the next text that we're going to bring in is my name. That's the username basically. So, but I'm going to use my name there. So the size for this is going to be 24 and we're going to leave it at semi-bold. So now I'm going to select both of these and add auto layout to it and then give it a gap of 8. A gap of 4 looks great. All right, so we are going to make sure that this is following our margin. Our margin is 16, don't forget. And then I want the top here to also be 16. But we are going to fix this with auto layout shortly. So don't worry too much about that. So I'm just going to go over to the next part, which is like the icons that we're going to have here. So I'm just going to select this. So we want the size of this particular icon that will be here to be like 36. So I'm just going to lock the aspect ratio and change this to like 40. And we're going to change it to a gray color and give it like corner radius of like 8. So if I select outside, this is how it looks. So there's something we need to do first before we bring it back in. So I want to make this a frame. I want to make this a component. So I'm going to rename this to icon and then I'm going to quickly right click on this and go over to plugin. Oh, let me show you how to bring in the plugin, how to search for plugins normally, in case you don't have most of these plugins here. We're going to be using huge icon, but let me follow this route. Probably after you've used it the first time, you can now add it to your plugins, your local plugins. So I'm going to search for huge icon. This is the process you follow if this is your first time using a plugin on your design file. Why it actually opened this way is because I already have the plugin saved in my design file. But for you, it might actually give you some kind of like write-ups that you actually need to read through. And then you'll see like a button which would say if you want to save it. So I would advise you save it. So, but it's a very straightforward process, so you don't have to worry too much. So the thing we are going to search for now is, I think let's search for the search icon. So I'm going to add this inside of this. So now it has been added. I'm just going to center it properly. But then I want all our icons to be, I think I made a mistake there. So we're going to leave the size to be 24 by 24. So I'm just going to bring this outside. I want all our icons to be components. So I'm going to show you how to make, how to update your components progressively. So we're just going to make it a component. So we are going to keep adding each icon. Any new icon we encounter, we are going to be making it a component so that we can keep updating it and we can easily swap it within every other area in our design file. So now that we've made this a component, I can now copy this and then selecting this and paste to replace. So I'm going to use the shortcut. I'm just going to put the shortcut on the screen so you can see it. So I'm going to paste to replace, and we're also going to make this particular icon a component also. So now this is like a component. This is like the frame that is hosting the component, the icon. So we're going to quickly change the color for this. So we're going to use our white color. So you see everything I do here will update here also. So this is supposed to be inside our design file. But since this is our main components, we don't need to put our main component inside of here. Instead, I'll just use the Alt to duplicate this. Drag while holding Alt to duplicate it. So this is our main component, so we don't need to do away with this. I just wanted to have like the borders around it. That's why I added this particular frame. If not, I would have just pasted the icon directly without having any borders there. But I just wanted to have like this kind of like the icons in a box. If not, I would have just copy the icons and paste directly. But this is like part of the styling of the whole interface. So the next icon that we're going to add, so I'm just going to duplicate this. And the next icon that we're going to add is the notification. So we're going to quickly select one of these. Let me look for the ones that look okay. I like this one, so I'm just going to select this. I'm going to select this. All right, so now you see that it has like this blue highlight. This one has like a purple highlight, which means this is a component and this is not a component. So we are going to make this a component quickly. And I'm going to close this. And now that we've made it a component, I want to change this particular thing here to have like our red color. So I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to delete this and use an ellipse to draw like a different. Don't worry, it's just going to still be on inside of the frame. So now that I have this, I'm just going to change this to our red color. So now that we have this, we can now go back and continue working on what we are working on. So I'm just going to put this on top of this. So the icons will now be below it. So now I want to have two of these here. One should be the search and one should be the notification. So I'm going to select both of them and add auto layout to it and change this to a gap of like 12. And then I'm going to rename this to icons. And then I'm going to select this also and add auto layout to it and rename this to greetings plus icon. And then I'm going to also come here also because we didn't name this particular frame here. So I'm going to call this greetings. So now that we have greetings here and we have icons here, so we are going to quickly swap this icon. So there's one trick I want to do. I want to add a component property here so we can easily swap the icon without having to double click a couple of times. So I'm just going to select this and then you'll see like this little icon here. Then I'm going to select this and then I'm going to name this swap icon. So I'm going to hit enter. And now that I've hit enter, if I select this now, if I select any of this, so if I select this, you see the swap icon command as displayed here. So I can just come over here and select from the components that we have. So I can just select this and you see the icon has appeared here. So this is what I want to do. And since I've done that, so one last thing that we're going to do now, you can see that there's like this particular frame around of this, which is like the auto layout, but we don't have padding. So what I want to do is like add a padding of 16 at the top and bottom, which has been added here. So this is what it is before. So after adding padding, this is how it looks now. So you see there's 16 padding up, 16 padding down, but there's no padding on the sides. So I'm going to add the padding on the side. So you'll see why I did that shortly. And then we're going to stretch this to actually fill the container, which is like our home screen. So our home screen, the size for our home screen is what? 375. So I'm just going to select this and make this 375. So now I'm going to center it properly and make sure that the gap between this is 0. So you see one thing now, you see that this has its own section to itself. You see, this has its own section to itself. Now, I don't have to, like, if what I was doing before is for me to actually follow the margin, I'll have to hold Alt. So if you don't know how I'm able to see most of all this value, I'm holding Alt on my keyboard while hovering on this particular frame, our home frame, to be able to see these values. So now, what I was doing before is manually adjusting it to our margin, but without with what I did here currently now, with the padding I added, I was able to actually align that without even checking the whole measurement. So you see this is already 16 from the end of the screen. And this is also 16 from the end of the screen. So this is how it works. So we are going to keep doing this for the rest. So we are not going to think too much about our margin. We're just going to use padding to just make that happen. All right, so now that we are done with this, the next part that we are going to create now is the stories, where we are going to have all our stories. So since we already know what to do, the first thing I'm going to create the section. You know, this one we added auto layer from inside out, but this time around, I'm not going to add auto layer yet, but I'm going to draw the frame first. So I'm going to push this, and now that we have this, so make sure that it's 375, and now I'm going to rename this to stories, because that's where we are going to have all the stories. And then now, the first story that we're going to bring in is it's going to have like a size of 80. So I'm going to lock aspect ratio and change it to like 80. So now that we have 80, I'm just going to push this, or let me just center it from here. Let me align it to the middle here. So we are just going to add stroke. So the stroke is going to be our gradient color, and then I'm going to give it like corner radius of like 100. So that it's round. So I'm going to change these strokes to like 2, and I like adding my strokes outside. Well, it depends on what you're building, but most times I like to add it outside so that it doesn't affect the contents I'm going to put inside. So now that we have this, don't forget I used the frame to create this. I didn't use an ellipse to create this. So now we are not going to use an ellipse to create the image, the container for the image. So since I know that this particular frame inside is going to hold just the image, that's what I'm using an ellipse. If you have not watched my components and auto layout video, I will advise you go and watch it. So I'm just going to center this properly and give it a size of like 72. So if I just edit this to 72, you see that the other side didn't edit. So that's not what we want to do. So always make sure that if you want the same sizes, you want it to increase evenly, make sure you always lock up aspect ratio. So I'm going to change it to 72 and center this properly. So now we have like a little breathing space here. This is what I wanted to achieve though. But wait a minute, I want to create this outside. Then when I'm done, I'll push it back inside of this. So we're just going to use Alt to create this. So I'm going to rename this to story. And then we're going to create like a little indicator to indicate if the person is online, or where we are going to host like our plus icon to indicate that a user should add his or her own story. So this is already 16, which is what I want. And I'm just going to try to hold Alt to check the measurements to make sure that I'm on point. This is like 4. I don't mind though, but as you can see now, it's only inside of here. You know what? Let's just quickly change this color to green. I know we didn't add a green color. We're just going to select at random. Probably I'll just select and tell you the color that I used. Or let me reduce this a bit. So it's 3BBE13. That's what I use for my green color. And you can see that the color is kind of like not coming out. So why it's not coming out is because this is a frame and we have clip content on it. So I'm going to uncheck the clip content. So you see it's already indicating, our indicator is visible now. So I'm going to add like a little stroke here so we can have like, let me give this our background color and then change this to outside and increase this to like 4. Or let's increase it to like 2. I like it at 2. So now that we have this now, the last thing that we need to do before we continue is to add where the user is going to input his or her text. So I'm just going to name this to username. So now that we have username here, I'm going to use like a very, very small text, which is going to be like 11, and I'm just going to leave it at this. And then we're going to select color text or whatever we named it. So the distance between this and this is just going to be like let's leave this at 12 and see how it looks. I think 8 will look perfect, so I think I'll just use 8 for this. So I'm going to select both of them and add auto layout to it. So I'm going to add auto layout to it quickly and make sure this stretch and this is aligned center. So now that we have this, now I'm just going to call this story plus user name. Don't forget, you can always rename this thing here, but since I'm renaming it here, if I click enter, you see the name has been updated here. So it's either you edit the name from the layout panel or you edit it from here. So we're going to do a simple trick now to be able to enable us easily swap between and choose different sizes. So I'm going to make this a component shortly, and now that I've made it a component, I'm going to drag it here, make it a variant, add a variant. So we're going to have different states. We're going to have a state where there is no indicator. We'll now have a state where the user is online, another state where the user is offline, another state where we will have like the plus icon to to signal a user that he or she can add their story. So this is the version where there is no indicator. We are going to remove the indicator shortly. So this is like the online, this is like the offline, and finally this is like the version where the user needs to add his or her story. So we are going to quickly update that so that you see what I'm talking about. And I want to reduce the sizes to fit in, because we are not going to always use the large one, because there are other places probably like let's just keep moving, just watch what I'm doing. Watch what I'm doing closely. So the first thing I'm going to do is change this property to type, or we can just call it state. Let's call it state. So we have the state. Then we are going to add another variant now. So the next variant we are now going to call this is now size. We will now have like a size. So now that we have these two things now, so this one, we don't want it well, I'm just going to select this. Sorry, I'm just going to select this, and select this. So we are going to add like a component property which will help us turn on and off the indicator. So I'm going to change this to change indicator, show indicator. So once I create it, so I can now come over here now. Once I select this, now, I can now decide to turn off the indicator. Oh, it can't work here because I'm currently in the main component. But if I drag this outside here, you can see now I can show or hide the indicator. So I can just decide to hide the indicator or show the indicator. Or you know what? Since we already have this, then we'll have to just delete this last one then. Since we can already edit whether we want to show or hide the indicator, we'll just have to delete this last one. So we can now edit just 3. So we only have 3 states. We have the online, we have the offline, and we now have states where the user can add his or her story. So this is the online version, and I'm just going to change the color for this. So I'm going to change this to gray. Let's just use our gray text color. And then finally, I'm going to change this to our gradient color. But since this is an ellipse, this can't hold any icon. So I'm just going to change this to frame selection. So now I've changed it to frame selection. I'm now going to right click on this and go to plugins and go to UG icons. So I'm going to go over to this and then search for plus icon. You know what? Let's go over here and duplicate this. So just don't forget that we are adding our components progressively. So now that I've done this, I'm just going to do this and make this a component, then copy it so that we can always access that particular plus icon anywhere we want to use it. So now since we've made this, don't forget that we made this, we framed the selection. So I'm just going to paste this inside of here, and then I'm going to change this to like 12 and then center it properly. So this is what we currently have now. So we have 3 different states now. So another thing I will now want to do is I will select this particular username so we can be able to edit the content. So I'm just going to select this, make it a add a component property, and then I'm going to say or let's just leave it at text. So we're just going to leave it at text. And now that we have this now, the next thing we're going to do now is to duplicate these 3, or let's name them first. So the state is, this particular state means it's online. So we're going to change this to online. And this particular state means it's offline. And this particular state is add story. So now that we've done that, so the size is, this particular size is the large size. So I'm going to select all of them and change the size to large. So we're just going to use LG as large. So I'm going to now use Hold Alt while dragging to duplicate. So now the next size that we're now going to have, we select this by double clicking. Make sure that what you select is this particular frame here, the story frame. Select this, select this. Now that you've selected 3 of them, hit K on your keyboard to see this scale menu, or if you can't access it, you can just always hit on this drop down here, click this drop down here and locate the scale menu here. I use the shortcut K, that's why I said hit K on your keyboard, and I'll just change it to 60 here. Now that we've actually gotten this, we are now going to select all of this. We are going to select this frame, this one, and this one, and change the size to medium, MD. So now that we've actually done this, I'm now going to duplicate this for the final state. So just like we did again, I'm just going to hit K9 instead of trying to use here, and I'm just going to change this to 40. 40 is like the lowest size. So now that we have this at 40, but I guess the font is kind of like too big. We're going to reduce the font across every other stuff too. And then like this very broad space here, I don't know why we have like this broad space here. I'm also going to work on that shortly. But let's quickly change the size so we don't have errors. Oh, let me remove the scale menu. So we're going to change this to XM, which stands for small. So now to make sure you don't have any error, select this and make sure that nothing is showing. There's no error showing here. So we did everything correctly. So the first thing I'm going to do is to edit the size of this text. So I'm going to select all because they are kind of like large. So I might just reduce it to like maybe 10 or 8. If 10 doesn't work, maybe we'll just reduce it to like 8. Alright, I think 8 doesn't look bad though. Or let's just leave it. Yeah, 8 doesn't look bad. And so what I'm just going to do, or let's just leave it at 10. I think 10 is fine. So I'm just going to select this. Let's select this. So this space that is here, there's this like very weird space that is here. So I don't want that space. Let me select all of this and see if that works. So I'm going to just change this to hug instead. So change the width to hug. So you see hug has worked. So I'm going to select this. While holding shift, I'm holding shift to select all of this. So I'm just going to change this to hug. So shortly you will see why we are doing all of this. So this one is permitted. We are permitted to change this to 8 actually, because it's kind of like not working the way we want to work. So I'm going to select this. So we are actually done with this. We can now continue. So I'm going to make sure that this is like 20, and then I'm going to close this off. So what have we been doing since? If you select this now, you see I can change the username to like text, and it's not affecting this. I can decide to turn off or turn on the indicator. I can decide to change this to our small size. I can decide to change this to our large size, and I can decide to change this to offline or change this to add story. So you see, so we need this add story first. So I'm going to select this add story, or I'm just going to cut this. I'm just going to cut this by hitting Ctrl X or Command X. So now we can now come back to this. Now I'm now going to select this and then paste to replace. I'm going to use the shortcut paste to replace. So now that we have this, I'm just going to duplicate this multiple times. But let's just duplicate it into 2 places and then add our auto layout to this frame we selected, the stories frame. So you see 2 of them are inside of the story frame. So I'm going to add auto layout. So we are not going to use auto as gap, we're going to use 2 as gap. And then I'm going to keep duplicating. But before I continue duplicating, let's change this to like online. Let's change this to offline, duplicate, change to online. And then select both of these and duplicate. So I'm using Ctrl D to duplicate. Well, let's just add one last one. So now that we've added one last one, this is how our story look. So, but for the padding of this, I want the top and bottom padding to be like 12. And then I want the sides to be 16 so we don't lose sight of our margin. So now that we have this, I'll just have to select this, close the space. So we're going to add images to that shortly. So now that we've already fixed this, the next place that we're going to work on now is our post. So the post, that's what we are working on next. So to create the post, we'll just have to, let's create the post outside. So I'm just going to name this post, because the post is also going to be a component. I don't know, this is a little bit advanced. So if you're kind of like struggling, try to revisit most of my other videos, which are like not really this advanced, because we're using a lot of component and a lot of advanced stuff here. So don't forget the width of our frame is 375. We need to maintain that. And now that we've maintained that, we don't need any, but let's just leave the background color for now, but we don't need any background color, just so you know. So we're going to have like 3 different layouts, 3 different boxes. The first box is going to be the header. And we'll also make sure this is 375. And we're going to push that. So we are just creating the structure basically. So I'm just going to add like a color. We don't need colors for all these, but so that we'll see what we are doing. That's why I'm adding colors for you actually. And then now this is where what we've created comes in handy. I'll then have to just select this and then drag this inside of this. So I'm going to cut this by hitting Ctrl X and then selecting our frame. We want it to be in the header frame. So I'm going to paste this inside of here. So now I can now push this to the middle and reduce this to our small. So, but there's something I noticed. Our text is still kind of like a bit visible. If I push this outside, the text is still kind of visible. We want to be able to on and off the text, just like the way we can turn off the indicator and turn on the indicator. So let's go back to our main component and edit that quickly. So we're going to select all of this text. I'm going to select this text, select this one, select this one, select this one. So try as much as possible not to break your components. Just look for a way to actually update most of all these components. Select everything again. What we want to add is the visibility, that's the appearance. So we'll just go back to the appearance and then add. So I'm just going to call this show text. So we can be able to turn on and off the text. So now I'll just come over to this place and select this. And to turn off the text, I'm just going to, let me select this. And I'm just going to turn off show text. I'm just going to turn off the text. So you see, we don't have any text anymore. So I'm just going to push this inside of this. And make sure the blue highlights displays on this particular header frame. So don't worry about the margin and all that. Oh, I'm going to use auto layout to treat all of that. So the next thing I'm just going to bring this particular, I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to copy this, come back here and paste it. So it's kind of like a bit larger than what we have here, but I'm just going to still reduce it. So you know what? Let's just remove all the fill. You're already seeing you can already see the structure. So I'm just going to remove this, and then I'm going to select the post and then remove this also. So we can see this. So just know that this is for like our header. And then if you now select the post, it now show you the entire frame. So the next thing we're going to do now is so down here will be the username. So we're going to push this down because there's already auto layer. If you hit your arrow key, you can be able to swap places like this. So we are just going to call this, like, let's just say probably at Jessica, whatever, let's just say at Jessica 324 or whatever thing. So I'm just going to name this Jessica Wales. I don't know, I can't think of anything, so I'm just going to actually or let me just change it to Jessica Albert. All right, so what we are just going to do, I'm just going to reduce this to like let's change this to like 16. Let's see how that looks. It doesn't actually look bad, but the text is kind of like looking too big, so I'm just going to probably reduce it to like 12. But that means it will now be the same size with this particular one down here. So we can just leave it at 16 and probably change the alignment to left alignment. So I'm just going to select this and add auto layout to it and call this user name plus image. All right, so and we want the distance between them to be like 12. 17 is kind of like too much, so I'm just going to put this in the middle. So now that we've gotten this, the next part that we're going to now create is, let me add like a subtle color on this so that we make sure we are seeing what we are doing. We are going to obviously remove these colors because I'm not going to be using colors for any of that. So this is like the first color. Let's make it very dark black. And then this is like the second color. So you can see the structure. Yeah, so you can see the structure. So this is how the structure looks. So now the next thing we are going to add is this particular frame here, this icons frame. So I'm just going to make sure you're selecting this. Look at the blue highlights, make sure it's selected and paste this inside of this. So if you pasted this inside of here, don't worry, it's still going to be visible when we are still going to remove all of this background. So the background for these icons will definitely be visible by then. So, but one thing is that we need only one particular icon here, and the icon that is supposed to be here is the more icon. So let's quickly duplicate this and make the more icon a component. So I'm just going to duplicate this, push this, and then go to plugins to bring in the more icon. So I'm going to select this and search for more. So I kind of like this one, so I'm just going to select this. So now it has swap. Hopefully I don't come back to want to add any other icon. Not for this session though. Okay, I think I'll have to add other icons too. Let me just quickly bring in all the icons then. So we're going to make this a component. This is our more icon. So I think we'll have the icons that we will now need is the like, the comments, the share, and then the save. Just like how we have. So like, comment, share, save. All right, so let's quickly go over to huge icon. I'm just going to scroll down here. One thing about huge icon is that the plugin will display here, so you can just easily click it. So I'm going to go over here and we're going to search for the heart icon. All right, so we're going to quickly select this one. And then we're going to come over here. Don't worry, I'm going to make it a component. Just make sure that anytime you see that something has like this blue highlight, it means it's not a component. Anything that is like a purple highlight in Figma means it's a component. So you see this is not a component. I'm going to come back and make it a component. So I'm just going to select this. And the next one is the chart. So I'm just going to select anyone at random. And then the next one is the share icon. So I'm going to select this one. And then finally, I'm now going to select this one and add the save. All right, so now we're going to select all of the new icons we added. And then I'm going to make them a component. So don't click on this. So just click on this little drop down here and then create multiple components. Exactly. So now that we have this now, so we can now come over here now. Oh no. So I'm going to select this and then change the components quickly. So we are going to look for it and select it. So what we want there is the more button. So now that we have the more button here, so I'm just going to quickly create the button that is going to be here before pasting to replace the pasting it inside of this. So I'm just going to create like a little text. So what we have there is like the follow. So that's what we have there, and that text should be like 12, and then we want to leave it at. I think medium is not bad. So I'm going to click on Shift A to add auto layout to make it a button. So I'm going to call this button. So now that we have this as button, I'm just going to quickly add our gradient field to this. Whoa, this looks amazing, and I'm going to change this to like 8. Yeah, so this is what we want, and I'm going to quickly make it a component also. So I'm going to call it, I'm going to make it a component quickly, and then add a variant, and that variant will just be like our gray color. So this one will say on, oh, let me just add it at the back, on follow. Yeah, so I'm just going to make sure that they have the same width. So this is like 71, so I'm just going to make this 71 also. All right, so for now, I'm just going to stretch this, and then I'm going to, so for now, I'm just going to select this and copy, and select this also, and paste to replace. All right, so now I'm pasting to replace, and I'm going to change the height to fill container. All right, so now it's time to now add our auto layout. So let's do the magic that we've always been doing. So I'm just going to add auto layout to this, and then the top and bottom padding will be 16, and then our left and right padding will be 16 also, so that will follow our margin. And I think we are good. So this looks great, this looks amazing, but the text is kind of like a bit too much. And for this follow button, I think it's kind of like the text is too shouty. So I'm just going to reduce the text to like, let's reduce it to like 10 or something. And let's see if we can reduce most of all these too. So I can just reduce this to like, let me leave this at 11 and then probably keep this at 14. I think 14 won't be bad. Yeah, so we have like enough space around it. So now that we have this now, the next frame that we're now going to bring in, let me quickly drag this down. Oh, I think this doesn't have the same. Let me quickly edit this. I'm coming back. This should be 71 also. But let's just reduce this to 63. So this should be 63 too. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave it at that. All right. So now that we have this, and don't forget, this is auto. Don't add any gap here. That's I'm talking for this header. I'm speaking of this header now. Don't add any gap. It's supposed to be auto. And just make sure your top and bottom and your left and right is 16. So now the next frame that we're going to, so we don't need a frame here because it's just going to be hosting an image. So we are just going to use like a rectangle instead because it's just going to host an image. So I don't like using frames for where we know just an image is going to occupy. All right, so we just want this to be a square. So we are going to maintain the 375 to make it a square. All right, so this is what we want. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to duplicate this. But before we duplicate this, let me select this and add auto layout to this. So now I'm now going to duplicate this. So this is the other places where we are now going to have the like, the caption, every other thing that we want to have there. So let's quickly work on that before we continue. So to work on that, let me quickly zoom here and let me duplicate all. I think we're going to use 4 of these icons down there. So I'm just going to hold Alt and drag. So holding Alt and dragging, we display these 2 arrows here, and you see the main component is still up there. We don't want to use our main component anywhere in our design. Make sure that the main component is always somewhere you can go back and edit it don't try to use your main component inside of any of your design. If you create a component, keep it in a separate place and use like an instance or a variant of that particular component elsewhere. You can use it multiple places as much as you want. So I'm just going to bring out some text here. So I like this. So I'm just going to drag this. Don't worry, we are going to edit all of that soon. So for this, I'm just going to put the icon here, and let's just change this to like 1.3k likes, 1.3k likes. So let's say that's like 1.3k likes. So we're going to change this to like what did they call this again? Auto width, yeah, auto width, and we are going to change this to regular. And then I'm going to change the color to our text color. Oh, I think this is thin, not thin. I want regular, please. So regular, and I think 12 won't be bad. And then I'm going to select most of this and add auto layout to it. And then I'm going to call this likes. And then I want this to be like 16. So I'm just going to use the aspect ratio and reduce this to like 16. I don't know. I just hope that's not too small. Or let's just leave it at 24. And then this is like our text color. Make sure this is our text color. So now that we have this text variation, I can now copy this and now select this and paste to replace, then duplicate and duplicate. But now I don't need this particular one anymore, so I'm just going to delete it. So this is what we currently have. And I'm just going to impute most of all these icons inside. And then we're going to do the final duplicate, where we are now going to have this. So this is just going to, we're not going to show how many people saved it. So we're just going to duplicate this like this. So now these ones are going to be very close to themselves. So I'm going to select all of them and add auto layout to them. And then I'm going to reduce this to like 12. Let's see how that looks. But let's change it to 16 and see. Yeah, I think the spacing there is quite enough. All right, so there's one thing that we need to now add finally. What we are now going to add now is the text and all that. So I'm just going to select this. I'm just going to bring this out for the caption. Don't worry, we'll use auto layer and adjust it. For now, I'm just going to paste it. So let's say our caption is let's type out our caption shortly. And found love. All right, so I'm just going to cut this, and then I'm going to duplicate this and select this. Once I select both of them, because after duplicating, I'm selecting them, and I'm going to add auto layout to this, and then change the layout to vertical. Yes, so I'm just going to select this and now paste to replace. Let me go back. So you see that the highlighted one is this particular, the duplicate of this. That's what I highlighted, and I just paste to replace. Yes. So now I'm just going to add like gap between them. Let's say 12 doesn't look bad. And then this entire frame, everything should just be up so that this guy will remain up here. So let's say the user click on enter and put like new city, comma, same love, full stop. And then they now like duplicate and add their hashtag, which is like travel together. And then the next hashtag is like couple goals. And then the next hashtag is wanderlust. Let's say that's the final one. All right, so this is all what we want. And I think that's it. So this is how our everything looks, our post looks. So now it's now time to now add add components to this. So we can now add component, and now we can now remove all the fields that we added. So I can now remove the field, and then finally remove the black field that we have here. So now that we have removed all this field, I can now copy this particular component and then duplicate this. Now that I've duplicated, I can now push it down and paste to replace this. Don't forget that I copied this first to be able to paste to replace this inside of this. So now that we have this now, but we are going to stretch this a little. So you see now with that padding that we maintained, we were able to actually get the margins correctly. So I'm just going to drag this to the bottom. And then this is what we currently have. Let me turn off our layout grid first to make sure we are seeing what we are doing correctly. So this is how it looks. So now we're going to select this, select this, and select this, and add auto layout to it so that we can enable scrolling. So don't forget, at the end of this tutorial, we're going to add like some prototyping to it. So you see, this is what we currently have now. And then let me still stretch it a bit. So this is what we have, but there's one more thing. I want to have like this little demarcation to show that there's like a new. So I'm just going to select this and add like a stroke to this. Let me add like the gray stroke. Okay, this is what I want, but I want this to be like 0.5. So it's not that visible, but I want it to be only at the top of this particular one. So it's just going to be appearing at the top. So this is what we currently have. So this is how I want it. So now that we currently have this, let's quickly add images to all of this. But before we add images to this, don't worry, let's add images to it first. So I'm just going to quickly right click. You can right click anywhere on your design file and go over to. So if you don't have any of those plugins, just click on this action button here, and look for whatever plugin that we're using. So for this, I'm going to be using Unsplash. I already have it, so I'm not going to search it again. But if you don't have it, always search it. This is the spelling, always search. Or you know what we are going to do? The only place that we might be needing Unsplash is for the images of the vacation and all. So I'm just going to search tourist. So I'm just going to search like tourist and see how that works. So I think I like this image, so I'm just going to use this image. So I'm just going to select this and then apply this. All right, so we have our first image, and for our second image, I don't know what we are going to add for our second image. So now that we have this, the other part is to add pictures to all of this. I'm just going to use the content reel. So I already have the content reel. So if you don't have it, you can always come down here and use this. So now we're going to select all the places that we want to see avatars. So I'm just going to select this and select this, select this, select this. You can add it one after the other if you're not getting it, or probably you are adding the images and the images are not entering properly. I like this particular image here, so I'm just going to swap this guy. I want this guy to be here instead. So one good thing about the component that we created is that now I can come here and just swap this to online. You see how easy that is? And I can now come here and change this back to story. Simple. So I like this, and there's something I noticed also. So I'm just going to select three of these and push them so that the other ones that we actually added here will come out. The reason why I can move things around is because there's already auto layer on it, so I can just use my arrow key to move things around. So I'm just going to select this one and try to see what kind of images pop in. Okay, this doesn't look bad though, so I'm just going to select this and just push them back to where they were. Oh, before they go, let me bring them back. I'll just have to edit their content. I want to edit their content, please. Let's go over to text. So that's one thing I like about content reel. Like you can just have full names of things. Yeah, simple. So I'm going to do that for the rest. So for myself, it's me. I'm just going to put you there for myself. So this is just going to be you. I don't know why I'm even double clicking on this. We've already created the content for this. So just the proper place to edit this is just here. See, simple. But why we are duplicating this is because we are using like the content reel to make this possible. And that's why I'm selecting this because content reel will just add it for me. I think I want normal name. I don't want something that will break our. So let's say, for example, now we have something like that. Let me go back. Or let me just add that full name again. Now you see this particular name that breaks here. To solve this, we'll just have to go back to our main component. To solve this particular thing, I'll just go back to my main component. Let me show that how to do that. So I'll just go back to main component. So once you right click, you go to main component and go to main component. And then what we are going to do is that we're just going to select all of this text and we're going to truncate them. So now there's like this settings icon here. So now you just go over to here, you see truncate text, activate it, and then leave it at one line. So let's look for that particular, where is that particular, so we can now return back to instance. So you see everything now is now in one line. So anything that is more than one line, you just truncates. So that's what we want. And let's quickly add images to these ones too. And then I'm just going to select. So I'm just not going to bother too much about editing this, or I might just try, since we're using content tree, why not? Oh, then I think I clicked on the next thing. I'll just have to select avatars from here. Or let me just use these photos that I used all this while. All right, so now that we have this, I'm just going to select this and use content reel to bring in the text. So we are just going to use full name here. This is kind of like too much. I'm just going to use like another name here. All right, I think I like this. And then the username, let me just try and edit the username quickly. All right, so now that we have this should be online, so we can easily change this to online. All right, so now that we have this, we have the follow here also. All right, so this is all what we have. So now that we have this, we are going to do something quickly. Let me go over here. So go back to your layer panel. Always work with your layer panel because your layer panel tells you a lot about your design. It gives you a lot of details about what you're doing right and what you're not doing right. So I'm just going to close all of this. I'm actually looking for, yeah, so this is what I want right now. So now I'll just select this auto layout that I added. So the auto layout is all of the content I added auto layout. So remember that we added auto layout to all the content. So I'm just going to rename this to main. So this is like the main content. So we are going to come back here. When we want to apply our carousel, we're going to come back here. So I just wanted to rename that so we don't get confused when it's time. All right, home indicator. layer blur. Oh, those are fixed. All right, so now that we have this now, it's time to now reduce the size of this so that we can add our bottom nav bar. So I'm just going to reduce this to 812. So it's going to cover what we have under here. So I'm just now going to reduce this to 812. So don't forget our home indicator is here, but let's bring out the home indicator. Where is that home indicator again? So I'm just going to select the home indicator and push it outside. All right, now is the time to create our home indicator, bottom nav bar. So I'm just going to select this and add our bottom nav bar. I'm just going to call this nav bar. All right, so now that we have it at nav bar, I'll just add, I want to add like a glass effect. So we are going to use the glass effect for this. But let me change this to black color. Or let me change this to the black color here. Oh no, let's just use the normal 00 for black colors, please. All right, so I'm just going to select this, go to drop down, use the glass effect. And then for the glass effect, I'm just going to set the glass effect. For this, I want this to be 70. And then let's use 70, 80, and then 100. And then we're just going to have 4 here. I think 4 is perfect here. So now that we have the glass effect here, I'm just going to select this and push this to the middle and push this to the bottom. So now I'm going to select this and then this should be 375 because that's like the width of our main frame. So the next thing we are going to do now is to create this particular, that's our nav links. So we are just going to create one particular nav link. So I'm going to call this nav underscore link. So now that we have our nav link, the height of the nav link should be like 40. So now that we have 40, so we now need to now bring in the icons that we'll have down there. So I'm just going to select one of the icons that we have here. So we are just going to basically swap it later on. Let me just paste any random icon here. All right, so we have pasted the random icon inside of here. I'm just going to turn off the light for this. So now let's go and bring in the icons that we want to use. So we have like 5 icons that we're going to be using. We're going to have the home screen, we're going to have like the chat screen, we're going to have like the favorite screen, and we're going to have like the explore, and finally the profile. So this is like for the home, this is like for the favorite. I think we already have the favorite icon, and then but we don't have like the home. We don't have home. We already have favorites, we already have the charts. Now we just need explore and the profile. So 3 is enough. So I'm just going to go over here, select huge icons. So let's search for home. So we are going to select, let's select, I'm just going to select this. Oh, let's select this. And then for the next one, we have like the explore. So I'm just going to search explore. Finally, we have like user. All right, so we're going to close this now and select all of these and add multiple components to it. All right, so now we can now go over here and swap. So since we already have this, there's no need to think too much. I'll just drag. You know what? Let me just drag this inside of here. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to duplicate this and then select both of them, add auto layout to it, and then change this to 375, and then top and bottom. So probably like top and bottom should be like 16, then 16. I don't know. I feel 16 is too much, but we are just going to check it out soon. So I don't want any space between both of this. In fact, let me add auto layout to the entire thing. And then remove the gap. The gap here is like 11. So I'm just going to remove this gap, change it to 0. So there's no gap there anymore. So I'm just going to duplicate this into 5 places. So I think this is already 5. So we are going to select each of these, and you can just select the frame that have like the nav links. So this is like the nav links. And then we're just going to change this to auto. Simple. This is what we have. So now we can now swap each of this icon. Select this, and then we're just going to change this to home. And then I'm going to change the next one to favorite, and this one is going to be explore. And this is like going to be, so now that we have this, we'll just have to test this inside of this. So before testing it, let's quickly make this a component before testing it. So I'm just going to copy this and select here and paste. Oh God, I think I did the wrong thing. So I'm just going to select this again and paste. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, this is what we want. So let's try to play with this. Let's try to play with the main component and see how that reflects. So let's increase this to 40 and see how that looks. Oh, a bit dark and okay. And the glass effect and everything. So let's reduce this to like 60. Not bad, still look great. But let's just leave this at 100, just like the way I left it before. And let's see if 60 works. I think 40 works. So I'm just going to push this to the bottom. Select this one now and push this to the bottom. So this is what we currently have. So we can be able to see things behind of this. So there's only something, there's like the distance between this and this is kind of like too much. So I want to fix that. So to fix that, I'm just going to reduce this. So I want this to be like maybe like 8 or something. Let me see how 8 looks. 8 doesn't look bad. Or if we can even do 4. 4 doesn't look bad either. Let's just leave it at 8. I think 8 looks okay. So 8 looks okay. So we're just going to quickly do some things here. We're going to create different states for this particular frame. So I'm just going to create like the variants. So this is like, this will be the home, and this will be like the heart. So all of this will be the explore, this will be the chart, home, heart, favorite, explore, home, favorite, explore, chat, and finally the user. So we are just going to quickly edit this. So for this now, let's quickly change this particular icon. So I'm just going to hit enter to make sure this is selected so I can select all of this. So I'll just have to select this home, and we don't need the strokes, so I'm going to remove the strokes, and I'm going to select this and add gradient fill to it. So this is what I want. So for this also, I'm going to hit enter and make sure this is selected, the vector is selected. I don't want the stroke, so I'll just change this to like a gradient fill. And I'm going to also come here, select this, and then just probably pick this, and then select, remove the strokes, add this, uh I don't know how that looks, but I'll just leave this the way it is. So I'm going to select this also. And for this, I'm just going to change this, remove the stroke here, and change this to our gradient color. And finally, for this, I'm just going to remove this and just hit enter so we can select both of them. I'm just going to hit enter again to select both of them. So I'm going to remove the strokes and change this to our gradient fill. So now it's time to rename this. This is going to be our default. So let's quickly change this to state, please. This should be state. So this is our default state, and this is like our home. So I'm going to edit this to home. And this is, let's call this favorite. And then I'm going to call this explore. And this is going to be, make sure this is selected. This is going to be our chart. And finally, this is going to be profile. So now we have our nav bar ready. So we can now come here and swap it easily. So we can change it from default to home. So we are currently in our home tab. So this is what we have so far. So this is like the standard industry way to actually create, to make sure you are progressively creating your component. So I'm just going to quickly bring all of this to this side so we can continue working. So I want to create the next page, but before creating the next page, let me quickly adjust all of this. And then all of this, I'm going to select this also and push this down here. All right, now we have all of this, and let me check carefully and make sure that we've completed everything here. So now that we've completed everything here, we will now have to move to the next phase. So we did like a lot of work on the home screen. We're like creating the components from scratch. So for this, I don't think we'll have to stress that much. So I'm just going to delete this and also delete this. Yeah, so now that we've deleted this, what we are just going to add now, we're just going to edit this. So for this, I'm just going to have like, I'm just going to copy this and then select the frame that is holding, the greeting frame that is holding this and paste to replace. So I will have only one thing. So now I'm going to change the alignment to right, to left rather, and I'm going to change this to charts. Yep. So this is not going to be medium, this is going to be semi-bold, please. Yeah, this is going to be semi-bold. And then we're going to change this to our more button. Yeah. So now that we have this, the next thing we're going to do here is to hit enter so we can select all of our stories, and we're going to change this to the medium size. All right, so we have changed everything to medium size. So it's good to actually create components. Sometimes it can be really stressful, but at the end of the day, it will pay off, because when you want to reuse most of all those components, it will just be very, very easy for you to work with them. So there's something we need to create. We need to create like a toggle that will enable them users to be able to toggle between chats, groups, and calls to see what they've been up to. So I'm just going to create like this little frame here. The frame is just going to be like let's give it like probably a height of like 44, and then I'm just going to give it like a corner radius of like probably 8. I don't know how it looks, but I'm just going to change the fill to gray color, and then we're just going to call this toggle. Ooh, let me rename this again. So we're going to name this toggle, and then we're just going to quickly create like different toggles. So for this, we are just going to name this let's just add something inside. So inside of this, we're going to have like our charts. This is where we're going to have our charts. So the charts will be like 10 is okay. I'm just going to center this properly and make sure it's inside of here. And I'm going to add auto layout to this. And then I'm going to, I don't know how many spaces I'll give to it for now. Let me just quickly add color to it. I don't know. Probably peachy color looks good. So what we are just going to do is just going to give this a corner radius of like 4. And then we're going to add auto layout to this. But I want the padding around it to be like 4. Yeah, finally I know the padding I want to use. So top and bottom should be 4 and the side should be 4. So now we now want to duplicate this and duplicate this. So, but these two are not going to have any fill. And then they are going to have like our gray text fill. So what you might be wondering like, why is this? So we are going to change the layout shortly. So this is how the layout look. So I'm just going to reduce this to like 355 or something. So I'm going to add another layout to this that will hold like the box or everything. So I'm just going to add auto layout to this and give this like 16 top and bottom and 16 left and right. That's for our margin. Don't forget that. So we are putting everything inside of the frame to be able to actually fit in correctly. So for this, I'm just going to call this, we already named the inside toggle. So I'm just going to add a toggle section. So I'm just going to Control X and duplicate this so that we can paste it inside and then push it to the top. So this is basically what I have in mind, but this is going to be 375. Don't forget we're maintaining this. So let's see how that looks. This doesn't look bad, but I don't like the spacing between this. So probably I will just reduce this to like what should I reduce it to? Probably I can reduce it to like 12 or something, or even reduce it to like 4. Nothing too much. I think this looks great. And this is looking like too small. I don't know if the user thumb can be able to fit in this correctly. So inside of this, I'm just going to select this. We didn't make this a component, but once we want to make this realistic, obviously like in a real project, this needs to be a component. So you can easily swap between the selected version and the unselected version. And we have like this spacing around here. I'm going to remove this spacing shortly, but first of all, let's add like a solid padding between this. So this can just have like top and bottom of like 12. Oh, what did I just select? Let me go back. So I just, yeah, top and bottom padding of like 12. And this doesn't matter. This is the width of this is already on fill, so we don't have to think too much about that. So I'm going to remove the gap, so I don't need any gap in between them. So this is what I want. So I'm just going to select this and see how this looks right now. Okay, so now I think now we need like the 12 gap or something. So this is how it looks right now. And we're just going to go over to the next thing. I think it looks too much. Can just change this to like 8. Let me leave it to 8. I think 8 is the last now I want to edit it into. Or let me go back. I think I mistakenly click backspace. So anytime you click backspace, anytime you click on backspace, you're going to delete. Backspace is same as delete in Figma. Alright, so this is it. Oh, we have not even changed the name. No wonder I was feeling something was wrong. So I'm just going to select this and change this to what they call it, groups. And then I'm going to select this and change this to calls. All right, so we have this selected. So now that we have this selected, the next thing I'm going to do now is to include the charts. So one thing that we can now use is we're going to use this particular frame. I like this particular frame that we created here. I'm just going to copy it. I'm just going to copy it and then select this. Just like our regular paste to replace, then we're going to paste to replace. Don't forget we copied this at first. We came here, copied this, and we came here to paste to replace. And now we're just going to edit some simple thing. So instead of having things here like this, I'm just going to change this to something. So for this, I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this, the name and this. It's still like two layers that are still going to be there though. But this time around, I'm just going to change this to hug. And then this will go to the top. This will be like 2 minutes. Ago. And then I'm just going to change this to this. But and this is just going to have like this regular thing here. I'm just going to copy this indicator. I don't like recreating most of all these things. Probably that's like a bad habit I have. So I'm going to paste to replace this using the shortcut. So I think one thing that you learn very well in this video is how I use paste to replace a lot. So gap of like 8. And then we're just going to, probably we can center this and let's see how it looks if it's centered. Doesn't look bad though if we center it. But the only thing is that we might just have to now change this to like our gradient color. And then this is an ellipse. Okay, we can't use this actually because it's an ellipse. So I'm just going to select this and draw this and call this numbering. So this is like how many messages the person has sent to them. So I'm just going to, you know what, let me just use text instead of the pasting to replace again. So I'm just going to call this put 2 here. And this 2, this should be like, I think 10 is okay. I'm going to center it correctly. And then I'm going to add corner radius of like 100 so it's get round. And then just like what we have been doing, we are going to add like gradient fill, and this is going to be our white fill. All right, so I think I want this one to be like a bit of semi-bold. So now that we have this, I can just Control X this and then paste replace. All right, so but we don't want this at 14, we want this at 16 actually, so it's very visible. Oh no. All right, so now that we have this, I don't know how this looks, but let's just keep going. So now we are now going to make this a component. So I'm just going to select this and push this outside so that I can be able to edit one and it affects the rest. So we're going to name this to chart. So now I'm going to make this a component and then copy this and select this and paste here. Paste to replace just like we always do, and now I'll now duplicate it, duplicate it, duplicate it, duplicate. All right, but let me leave like a space around here. So I'm just going to select all of this and just make it, add auto layout to it. So adding auto layout to it, now I'll just rename it to chart. All right, so now that we have this, I'll just have to select this. Top and bottom is 16, good. I want like, I just want to have like this kind of like line, this like a stroke top and bottom. So I'm just going to add like a stroke. I'm going to use our color, text color, change this to like 0.5 and then change this to just top and bottom. So we are going to go over to customize and I'm just going to leave this as 0 and 0. All right, so but the colors are a bit wild. So I think you see like these ones are very thicker than the one at the top here. It's because I added it in 2 places. You know what? Let's just change it to top. And then I can just reduce this to, you know what? Let's use another color. Let's use another color. I think that color is too much. Yeah, I think this is not bad. This looks okay. Probably I might just change to 0.8. I can just change it to 0.8. Yeah. So now that we've selected this, we'll just have to push this to this area here. So finally, I might just have to just use content reels to change the the user photo. Let me quickly do that before we move to the next thing. So don't forget, if you don't have content rules, you can use the action panel here to access it. You know what? Let's go back and use another collection. And we have a lot of males here, so I just want to have it like a mix. I don't like the fact that we have like a lot of icons, like a lot of colors there. I think this one are just like females. Okay, let's see if this works. Alright, this doesn't look bad though. Let me try one more time and see. Alright, I think this doesn't look bad. So the next thing is just to change the names. Alright, so we'll just quickly have to edit this quickly. Probably I'll just give them like random username. I don't mind if they are male or female names. I'm just going to all right, so now that we have this now, so I think we are done with this. The only thing we just have to just change, we're going to change this now to the chart. So it's ideal to create your bottom nav bar like this, so you can easily swap between them and it will be easier for you instead of trying to do. So don't forget, we didn't rename this to charts. So, and then we're now going to move to our final screen, which the final screen is going to be this. So we already have like this template right here. So I'm just going to copy this template. I'm just going to copy this and paste to the place here. So I'm just going to paste to the place here. All right, so I'm just going to say this is the person that is chatting him. So we're just going to delete all of this. So we don't need this. So for this particular screen, I'm just going to bring in some icons that we're going to use. And we're going to use like a different kind of bottom nav bar here, which will contain message and text. So we're just going to go over to the main component and edit this. But first, let's bring in like the icons. We're going to have like a call icon. We're going to have like a video call icon. We're going to have like a file attachment icon, camera icon, and then a recorder icon. So I'm just going to bring all of those icons there. So this is like all our icons. So how many icons did I mention? I mentioned one, the call icon. And next is the video call icon, then the file attachment, then the camera, and then the mic. So let's quickly use huge icon to bring that in. So the first one is what? The call icon. So we're just going to use this. The next is the video. And then we'll just have the attachments. And then we have the camera. I think we'll have one more icon, so I'm just going to duplicate this. And then we're going to bring in like the mic. And then we're going to have like one last one, which is like the back button. So now I'm going to select all of them, and as usual, create multiple components using the drop down. Create multiple components. So I'm just going to close this. So now that we have this, I think we are done with this. So to proceed, I'm just going to push this down a bit so we can accommodate one more instance of this particular. So to create this, I'm just going to edit this directly. So we are going to change this chart or send message. So this one is for sending message. So we don't need this in, I don't want this to be inside of a frame. So I'm just going to paste to replace the main frame and make it standalone and duplicate into 3 places. So I'm going to delete this and this, although I want to make use of this. So this final one, we're going to make use of this final one. And this is going to have like our gray text, and I'm going to give it like corner radius of 100. And then I'm just going to delete what is it we have here. And then this is going to be fill. And then push this. But we're going to have like padding of like gap rather of like 16, please. Yeah, so this is what we want. So now I can now come over here and swap this to whatever thing I want to swap it to. So the first one is file attachment. So I'm going to change this one now to camera. And finally, this one I'm going to change it to mic. And then inside of here, I'm just going to bring in a text and call this send message. And I'm just going to leave this at regular. And then we're going to just change this to the text color. And then I'm just going to hold this, add auto layout to this, but still maintain our 40, please. And then I'm going to push this to the right and make sure the padding is like 16. Yeah, this is exactly what I want. All right, so this is for like send message. This is the final one we have for send message. So I'm just going to copy the back button here. There's something I want to do with that before I proceed. So I'm just going to go over to this place, and then so I'm going to select this and duplicate this and paste to replace and push this. So yeah, this is what we want. So for this now, I'm going to change this to the call icon. And then for the next one, I'm going to change it to the video call. All right, so now this is what we currently have. And then I'm just going to swap this to the send message. All right, so finally we've come this far. I think we've done quite a lot. I'm just going to touch this a bit. I don't feel comfortable with this, so I'm just going to increase this to like 12. All right, I think this makes perfect sense now. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do now is to bring in the charts and the chart flow and all. So I'm just going to bring this as today. Let's say the chart started today. And then we're going to hit Shift A to add auto layout to this, and probably I'll make this top and bottom 8 or top and bottom 4, and the sides should be like 12. And then we're going to change it to our gray text, and just make sure that this is like 16 from the top. And then we're going to center it properly. Corner radius should be like 8, or I don't know, let me see. I think 4 will be best. 4 will look okay. So 4 is okay. We can even leave this at 8. Yeah. So since we already have this now, we're just going to create the bubbles. So one thing we're going to do first is I'm still going to come here and copy this. I'll show you something I want to do right now. So I'm going to select so let's rename this. Now that I've selected this, I think I need to rename this. So we're going to call this chart screen. And then I'm just going to paste this inside. I can't think of anything, that's why I left it at chart screen. So now that we have this, remember we decided that we could actually turn off the indicator here. But the only thing is that we don't even need it as a component, though. I can just turn off the indicator and then remove this. We're just going to remove the whole linear stuff. So right now, what I can just do is I want to actually add like corner radius for this. And this is what is going to be inside of here. But first, let's add the color. Let's add our gray color. Let's add our gray color. And probably like the corner radius will be like 36 or something. And then we're going to edit this individually. The top here should be like 4. And then this should be like maybe like 16 or something. Yeah, so this is what I want. So I'm just going to copy this and paste inside of this. So this will just be like the chart. So I'm going to paste this inside of this. And then let me go back. I'm going to select this frame now, cut it, and paste to replace. You know what? Let's just select this inside of here. I'm just going to select this. I don't know if I'm still going to edit it, but let me just paste to replace. So we don't want any component here. We don't need components for now. So for this now, I'm just going to add like auto layout to this and then give it like right and left 16. Right and left should be like 12. 16 looks too much. Top and bottom should be like 12 also. So we have this. So probably this will just be like say something like, hey, David, how are you doing today? Or let's just say, how are you doing? And this should be like auto width, please. And this should be at the top here. The layout alignment should be like at the top here. Yeah. So now that we have this switch can just be down here. Oh. So I'm just going to select this. Let's say I'm the first person to send a message. So for this other side, I don't think I need like any screen or anything because you already know yourself and all that. So we're just going to edit this. Then this will just be like, this here will be 4 and this here will be 16 instead. And here will be like 36 and here will be like 36. Yes, so I'm just going to push this. So this place might now be Hey, oh, I've already imputed hey, so it should just be like Jessica. How are you doing today? So now that we have this now, so this particular, our own chat bubble will now, the fill will be the gradient fill. And then we want our color to be pure white. All right, so I'm just going to select this and make sure we are following our margin. And this should be like, probably we'll just have it like at 16 also. And then this should be like around 16 also. And then we're going to I don't know. I'm not thinking of anything right now, so I'm just going to change this to like let's just say we just have like 3 bubbles. And this one will just be like response to like okay. I'm just going to make sure that we're following our margin. And this one can just be like good. And hue. Or we can just leave this at 1 line. Same here. First, you are having a good day. So I'm just going to leave this as the last chat. Probably we're waiting for Jessica to respond. Probably we'll be waiting for Jessica to respond. So this is just what I have in mind. I consider this like this is kind of like, let's probably use 16 here. Let's use 16 here also. Let's just use 16. Let's use 16 everywhere for the bubbles. All right, so I'm just going to leave this at this and make sure it's just fully in our margin. And make sure this is also fully in our margin. But we can just leave this at like 24 or something. Yeah, this doesn't look bad. All right, so I think this looks great. All right, so now that we are done with this, let's quickly cross-check everything and make sure that everything looks perfect. All right, so we are going to quickly create this as mobile screens. And then we're going to create like a new page for components. So I'm going to go over to mobile screens and copy all of our components. But before we move our components, I want to create the prototype. So first of all, we're going to select this and play this and preview this. Let me quickly preview this. So I'm going to hit preview to preview what we've been working on so far. So this is exactly how it looks. But if you notice, we can't actually scroll and we can't click on anything because we have not prototyped it. So that's what we are going to be doing next. We are going to be prototyping it in real time. So now, if you click on this main, so once you select the home, you click on the main. So don't forget the main, we added auto layout to the status bar, the greetings, the stories, the posts. So this main now, why it's not actually scrolling is because of like the way this is stretched. So I'm just going to stretch it backwards and keep it at this level. And then we're going to go over to prototype, and then we're going to leave the position as scroll with parent and change this to vertical. So now that we've changed it to vertical, if I come back here and scroll, you can see now everything is scrolling. Everything is scrolling. And don't forget, don't leave it here, because if you leave it down here now, you can see, if I keep scrolling, I can't be able to see this detail. To be able to see that detail, I'll just have to click this to this point. So once I select this now, you see, if I can see all of the details and I can keep scrolling. So you can see our glass effect is actually displaying, and our icons are visible even on top of this glass effect. That's why I added like the little dark effect on it. So now that we are done with this, I think the next thing now is to make this responsive. This is not actually scrolling, and this is not, we cannot click this, and we cannot even like this post or even save this post. So what we are going to do, let's quickly make this scrollable. So I'm just going to select the whole stories frame and go over to here, change this to horizontal and see if that works. All right, so it works. So that's just how simple it is to just change it to horizontal. So we can now scroll, and so we are just going to do the same for this. So I'm just going to select this also and change this to horizontal also. I think it will start scrolling. So the next thing we're going to do now is to want to make this follow. So let me try this. Same here, this too is actually scrolling. So we're going to come over to this home, and then I'm going to edit this follow button so that once we click on it, it changes to unfollow. So to do that, let's quickly scroll up here, and I'm going to zoom here. So we've created the states, we've created the two states. The only thing we'll have to just do is just to use the prototype, go to the prototype panel. So I'm just going to drag this and link this to this. So once I link this to this, on click, we want it to change to variance 2. But before we do the prototype thing, let me just select this and rename this. So this is not default, this is follow CTA, and this should be on follow CTA. So now if I select this now and I go over to the prototype, so I'm linking this now. If I select this particular link now, you see change to unfollow. So if I want them, if they click on the unfollow also, it's changed to follow. It changed to follow. So now let's try that now. So if I click on this, change to this. If I click on this, it changes to this. If I click on this, it changes to this. So same here too, because we already made this a component. So the next thing we're going to do is to make sure that once someone likes this post, it's possible to be liked. And then once someone's click on chat, it should be able to go to the chat screen. So to make this post likable, we'll just have to go over to this place. So I'm going to bring this one out. And I'm going to bring this one out because that's what we are going to work on. So I'm just going to create a variant for this. And I'm going to add a few color to it. So I'm going to hit enter to go in. Hit enter again. And then now I've selected, I'll remove the outline color and just change this to our white color. Then just do the same thing I did with that other one. I'm just going to prototype it and change this to, and connect the dot. So once you can zoom in properly so you can see this add button, just drag it. And that's just how it works now. So if I click on this now, come here, you see I can now select it. And then let's come over here also. So we're going to go over to the design tab and then add variant to it too. So I'm going to hit enter 2 times and then remove the outline and then add our white color. So, but this, we want to add our gradient color instead. So I'm going to select this. So I'll go over to prototype. So once I move this, I'll just have to now link it back. So this is just like basic prototyping that you can add to make your whole design interactive. So I can now like or unlike, like or unlike. So now that we've done that, we've been able to make this scroll. We can be able to hit on follow and hit on follows, follow this, and can even like this, and it doesn't affect this. You see, that's why it's good to create components the right way. So I'm just going to go over the next thing. We are going to now link the pages. So now we want a situation whereby when we click on this, it just takes us to this page. And then when we click on home also, it takes us to this place. And then when we click on any of these particular, so I'm just going to select all of these. But you can just be specific, you can select only one, and when you click on this, it actually links to this. Or we can just select everything once you click on any one. Or let's just leave it at the first one, once you click the first one. So we don't want to actually confuse ourselves. So the next thing is once you click on this also, once you click on this icon here, it should come back to this. So let's quickly experiment that. So once I click on this, once I select this, click on this, it goes back. Once I click on this, it comes here. Once I click on this, it goes back, and I can click on this and it comes back to home. So I think we've done a good job, and thank you for staying this far. And let me quickly test it before we call it a day. So we have everything working functional, and yes. So finally, now that we've done this, thank you for staying up onto this point. I'm just going to select all of this and then move it to a separate page. I like my components to always be in a separate page to just make my work look neat. And I'm just going to go over to move to page and move to components page. All right, so now we have just our design here. So thank you for staying this far. See you in the next tutorial.